Hello, Internet. As you can see, you're not able to see my face. I'm actually literally currently sitting in a parking lot at a Wendy's. It's about 9:30-ish at night. And I'm also not by myself. Say hello to the people.
I was trying to make it funny. I was going to say, you can never rid of me.
Yeah. As you can see, I'm not by myself. I am with Matt Billingsley, who some of you may know as Wretneck. And we both just got back from watching... Well, we got back from eating after seeing this movie. But we both have just seen The Huntsman, Winter's War. Now, this isn't going to be like a normal episode where it's just a scripted review like it is. This is just going to be more of a freeform discussion, and I'm going to just throw this out there. There will be spoilers. If you're the kind of person that cares so much about the world of the Huntsman that you want to avoid spoilers, there will be spoilers in this discussion.
Frankly, you can't explain this movie without the spoilers.
Yeah.
It's just, this is a hard piece, folks.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pick this one apart.
Yeah, let's kind of start from the beginning. I mean, because you mentioned to me you haven't seen Snow White and the Huntsman.
I fall asleep 10 minutes in every time.
Yeah, and in my case, some of you may recall from my review that I didn't particularly care for Snow White and the Huntsman.
Such a boring film.
And such a terrible director. And yet, I'm left to wonder, why the hell did this get a sequel?
Why he doesn't have a sequel? It's funny because, in the same way, would you agree with me on this one about how I sit here thinking about this film, saying how it's struggling so hard to try to exist. That's what the project is. It has no reason or warrant to want to exist or be made, that it struggles to actually be made. I mean, seriously, a lot of the stuff that is put in this film just feels derivative of other materials and shows that are going on at the same time, just hoping it can have a stand in today's society.
Yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the film industry in a nutshell at this point. To kind of lead into the next point, I mean...
It's just a movie.
Well, I think it's fair to say both of our expectations were pretty low going in.
Yeah. Sadly, I'm probably a little different, because I was hoping to at least have something about this film I could actually pick apart and make fun of. And it didn't even give me that satisfaction.
Yeah, this is very much... I'm not going to say it's like the bad kind of bad, like a bad movie, but it's kind of the bad kind of bad movie where it's just kind of boring.
I'm trying to remember how a guy I like to watch by the name of Bennett the Sage. Bad movies. Boring, aggravating, and dumb.
To be fair, there were some things I did like compared to Snow White and the Huntsman, where one, it actually used color. I mean, who'd have thunk? Oh, there's this thing that makes things look bright, vibrant, basically so you can actually see what the is on frame. This film actually used color. It actually made sure that you could actually see what was on screen. So it at least has that over the predecessor.
You also feel like you're in a different environment at least each time.
Yeah, and the characters were a little bit better written. I mean, you could actually gauge personalities, and we didn't have one actress just staring in the camera off in the distance.
If it wasn't in their face, though.
Yeah.
So much close-ups. I was so uncomfortable. I've done screenings before, but I've never seen a screening this packed. I'm half confused what people were hoping to get out of this film.
Maybe there were just that many people who didn't want to pay for it. That's probably the real truth of
it. That he's right. I believe it. Case closed.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, there are some things about this movie because it wasn't directed by Rupert Sanders, thank God.
Thank heavenly God.
Yeah. He's off trying to ruin Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
But, yeah, with this film, although it's a little bit more colorful and some of the main characters and side characters are a little bit better written, the villains in this film are just weak.
Generic.
I mean, and not to mention, they basically castrate the main villain at about the halfway point. I mean, yeah, I get it, she's a woman, but castration is castration in this case.
Like, I'm trying to pick up on that metaphor, what you're referring to as the castrated part.
Well, by, saying, oh, they brought...
Spoiler time.
Well, I already put the disclaimer, so there's no need to warn them in this case.
In that case, if you didn't hear the warning, I warned you again. Proceeding any further, well, bear traps are in fashion this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're the kind of person who's so invested in the world of Snow White and the Huntsman that you don't want to be spoiled, but...
Is there a world?
That's what they're hoping, but by bringing Queen Ravenna back and, saying, oh, she's clearly...
She's back?
Yeah, it's, clearly, oh... I mean, the trailers already reveal that right away when you think about it.
I didn't even see the trailers. I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, basically, that's kind of what I mean by the castration, because you have, the villain who, her motivation is already...
Oh, yeah. We had a main villain. She wasn't that great, but at least she had her own ground. And then they decided at the last moment they needed to kick her back by the previous villain, who, fortunate for me, I do not know her original character because I fell asleep 10 minutes in.
There really isn't an original character to know. I mean, it's...
Yeah, no
I
original.
mean, what you see in the prologue is pretty much what you see in the entirety of the previous film.
You're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's not much character to the character, but you have the Ice Queen whose motivations are weak at best, but I mean, the whole, it's like legal to love and just all of that.
Oh yeah, Elsa.
Yeah, Elsa. But then you bring in the villain from the previous movie who's like, I am obviously more powerful and more intimidating and obviously a much better villain, so now you're just going to get thrown to the sidelines.
Do you think anybody would actually get mad if we just called her Elsa?
You might as well. I mean,
Another thought I had while watching this film is it's incredibly derivative on every aspect, but at the same time, I feel like these are people using this moment in this production to get back at previous jobs or other positions. Like, people here are trying to get back at, like I made that joke how it's called Winter's War. So I've had this joke, originally I was going to come in calling it the Huntsman Civil Soldier.
You know, that's more or less what he was civil. I mean, I wouldn't say his character's very civil, but he was a soldier.
I like to think that people who worked on this had some bone to pick with these other productions.
Yeah, or maybe the production company, because...
So, like, screw you, Disney, we're making Elsa a bad guy, and she's not going to sing a song.
Yeah, even though, to be fair, Elsa was originally a bad guy in the original fairy tale.
I would think Elsa would still have, in the movie Frozen, she would have still have made an interesting villain. I could have read the story like that.
Well, yeah, it's just a lot of people forget that in the original... I mean, that's going to be a long tangent, the whole thing with the Snow Queen. That's kind of one of the reasons why I don't like Frozen, but with this, it's obvious, like, Frozen's popular, let's put in the Ice Queen.
Game of Thrones is popular, let's just have a whole talk about taking over kingdoms and have everybody wear shiny, weird dresses and gold.
Yeah,
God!
I'm surprised they didn't have the king that's killed at the beginning played by Sean Bean. Then you would have had it perfect right there.
He looked like George Clooney. Am I wrong? Am I crazy?
Oh, well, they wouldn't... If they brought in George Clooney just for that...
Oh, wasted... Sorry, because I'm looking at the guy, those dark eyes and the brows. Like, I just kept seeing George Clooney. So, I was sitting in the theater just half confused. Like, I just sobered up yesterday. What? Is he in this film?
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's not really much else to say. It's just that it's kind of boring. I mean, the action sequences, well, better compared to Snow White and the Huntsman, at least in my case. They're just kind of underplayed, and it's just kind of, you've seen it all before in various movies, better and worse.
I was going to say, I was afraid I was going to be thrown on the spot if I had to say that I was sitting here watching this film, feel like I've seen everything in this thing before and done better. In fact, should we give one example of one of the most underwhelming fight scenes?
Go ahead.
They introduced how they're trying to find the mirror and some goblins, or was it goblins?
Yeah.
They took it. So they try to give you this buildup of what the goblins are. And what they do is they give you one goblin for all 6 characters to fight.
Yeah.
And then it's after the fight's over, they decide to bring in a whole army of the goblins to chase down our protagonists.
I'm guessing that's what happens when a person that the dungeon master doesn't like scores a critical 20 and kills the boss monster in one hit. And so he's like, okay, you know what? There's a bunch of other goblins chasing you now.
Yep. Sending him home with his swag bag. He's not going to come and play in our basement anymore. And they have swag bags like D&D, or is that just me when I was at that game shop?
I think that's at that game shop because, I mean, unless someone is a very, very rich DM, I mean, or if they're like, you either have to have it be a very rich DM, or you're playing with Ryo Mizuno. He's the creator of Record of Lodoss War.
I'm stupid, ladies and gentlemen.
It's an obscure fantasy anime, so again, we were talking about Berserk earlier, so that's kind of the train of thought, so...
Also, forgive me, as I seriously am trying to do my best not to try to open up to a better conversation over something better.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much most we can say, which is why this discussion may be kind of short, is that this film just feels unnecessary. There's not much to say. It's just there.
And you can tell it didn't want to exist, and yet its existence is just misery.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things to like, but not enough that, I mean, I wouldn't recommend paying full price to see this in a theater. I mean, this is definitely a Redbox movie.
Redbox? Okay. Because of my experience with the Snow White and the Huntsman, I cannot recommend anybody see that because I paid money to rent it, and I couldn't watch 10 minutes of it. So that was a wasted $3 on renting that movie, so...
Yeah, and honestly, you don't really need to see Snow White and the Huntsman to understand this, because they pretty much do the basic recap, but that's another thing that bothered me. They try to like allude to oh yeah, these are Snow White's lands, and Snow White is still a major threat, even though she's not in the movie.
Thank God they didn't let us see her face.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the same line. It's like that Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, where I have never seen the series when I saw that movie, so I decided before I got into Avatar, I was going to do the experiment of watching this film without the fandom bias, and genuinely, in the end of it, without knowing anything about Avatar, that movie was just a boring, stupid movie that just dredged on and killed me. But then when I finally got into the series, I'm finally staking and decapitating and setting its coffin aflame and peeing on its ancestors' soil.
Yeah, but yeah, with this film, don't pay full price to see it. I would say, I mean, even at Redbox, use a coupon if you're going to get it at Redbox.
Like me. Wait, no, I didn't get it at Redbox.
Well, yeah, and so that basically would be my recommendation. And I guess since this discussion was a lot shorter, since there's not that much to say, I'll go ahead and give my full rating, because to kind of summarize my thoughts, although the characters were a little bit better written, they had more personality, and although the cinematography at least gave you something to look at, as a story, it's basically a B movie. That's the only way. It's a B fantasy movie that you would see like on a shelf at a Walmart when a much better fantasy movie is already out on the market.
Yeah, is there B minus for this? Because even I wouldn't recommend this for a B movie because it's worse than a B movie. It's generic. There's movies that don't do so well that have memorability or credibility. This film, you have seen better films than this. So.
Basically, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, even the Hobbit movies, you've seen this movie. That's pretty much the only way to put it.
Yeah, geez Louise. If you've seen Conan, no, maybe not. There's like one
Are you meaning the remake or the original?
I never saw the remake. I avoided that even though I know Ron Perlman's in it.
Yeah.
But it's like, seriously, there's so many of these things are just derivative. It's annoying. It's plagiaristic. Like, I'm sitting here, like, I was in the theater laughing every time they kept trying to throw in. They kept jumping around with this editing, where it felt like you're supposed to know a little more than what was being shown to you. And too quickly in the beginning of this film, I had already seen 5 different movies play in front of me, and I was just laughing my head off how desperate it was.
Yeah, I think the best way is that this is more akin to Or the Iron Eagle than Conan the Barbarian, where it's just a junk food knockoff.
Conan the Barbarian is not terrible. I mean the remake.
Well, I'm just meaning because Or the Iron Eagle was basically a knockoff of Conan the Barbarian that was made in Italy.
Oh, okay.
And so
I don't know the Italians.
Oh yeah, and that one it's basically kind of they call it a junk food version of Conan because it has all the action and sorcery, but none of the subtext that informs it. That's the Winter's War right here, is that it basically is your typical generic fantasy, get the party together and we have to stop the evil villain thingy. Oh, there's a betrayal at the second act. It's pretty much just the same. It's a generic fantasy film. That's the only way I can really put it. And so the rating I'm going to give it, I didn't hate it. I just more or less I was just sitting there more like, I've seen all this before in much better movies. So I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5.
I'm trying to think like really hard. I mean, a 3, that's a pretty low rating. Like anything that's like anything below a 3, you'd have to be the Lorax
or Sabotage or You're Next.
I have not seen those movies, so
you don't need to.
Thank you. See, because I felt very agitated. I don't think this is the worst film I've seen. I mean, there's things that are definitely a 2 and a 1, a 3. I guess I would have to just go with a 3. My expectations were pretty much at the same level as his, except the only thing I had going is I was hoping at least have something left from this film that I could just make fun of for days. And I'm really left with nothing. Like, nothing new, nothing unique, and it's just,
Yeah, that's pretty much this movie. So I guess that kind of brings this little discussion thing to an end.
Popcorn was more entertaining.
Yeah, the popcorn, some of the trailers.
There's like only one. It was for that Harry Potter Hogwarts thing.
Yeah, but even then, that was more entertaining than this movie.
Yeah, we had a good conversation about Diagon Alley, at least maybe I did by myself.
Yeah, well, that's because that was like right at the start. So I guess since it's at the end, I mean, you all know where to find me since you're watching this on my channel, but Matt, is there anything you'd like to plug or promote?
Plug and promote on me? I don't know. I'm still trying to get around, still trying to get my confidence back up. The best place to find me would be Wretneck. That's WRETNECK. I'm about everywhere. I'm on Tumblr. I have a Twitter. I have an Instagram. Though preferably, I would recommend you'd probably want to check out my Instagram and maybe my art Tumblr more. If you go to my Twitter, you're going to get a lot of my rants.
Well, that's kind of what Twitter is for, really.
It is, and I lose followers for it.
Yeah, and again, if this is your first Romney video, even though I'm not sure how, but
This is a video?
well, I mean, it's gonna go on YouTube. Of course, you can subscribe to my channel. You can either do it through the little button at the bottom of the screen, or my YouTube channel, Studio Ghost Utah, or you can go to my Facebook, facebook.com/Romney's Reviews, and there's also my Twitter, @Romney Reviews. So yeah, thanks for listening, thanks for watching. I'm probably gonna cut this now, otherwise it's gonna devolve into more ramblings about better things.
That's how bad this movie is. You'd rather have better conversations about something else.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for listening, watching, and yeah, have a good night, good evening. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday to you. I don't know why I'm copying Cadicurus, but...
Cadicurus, he's a very funny man.
Yep.
Right? I guess my exit is Wretneck out.
This is Romney, signing out.